Since the dawn of humanity, human beings have asked themselves who they are, where they come from, and where they are going. In every era, in every corner of the world, voices arose that defied silence, that placed words where only mystery dwelled. These voices are the philosophers, the writers, the thinkers, and the scientists who dare to look beyond. Here, in this channel, they come alive through animation with the force of an epic narration and the colors of cinema. From Socrates in the squares of Athens to Nietzsche breaking idols. From Simone de Beauvoir raising the voice of women to Carl Sagan pointing at the stars. A journey where each name is not merely a memory but a flame that keeps burning. You will find the depth of Plato and Aristotle, the fire of Marx and Engels, the clarity of Arendt and Foucault, the existential gaze of Sartre and Kierkegaard, the rigor of Kant and Hegel, the empiricism of Hume and Locke, the sharpness of Russell and Whitehead, the poetry of Rumi, the spirit of Buda and Confucius. There are no borders here. The past and the present speak together, the mystical and the scientific, the political and the intimate. Each character will appear in their own world, with books, with fire, with oceans of ideas, with starry skies. And in each of them you will hear a spark of their teaching, an echo of their legacy, because this channel is not a class. It is an adventure. It is not a museum. It is a living journey. Here, ideas beat, breathe, and move. For nearly 15 minutes, you will cross centuries of thought, of questions and answers, of certainties and doubts. And in the end, you will discover that these voices are not dead. They keep speaking through us. They keep fighting in every decision, in every debate, in every dream. This is your invitation to enter the great dialogue of humanity. 1. The first seekers. Imagine the dusty streets of Athens. An old man with a weathered face stops in the square, surrounded by young men. Socrates. He questions, he challenges, he unsettles. He does not write, he does not impose. He engages in dialogue. Thus was philosophy born, in the simplest questions, which in truth are the deepest. After him, his disciple Plato lifts his gaze to the heavens. He speaks of eternal ideas, of a world beyond this world. His academy shines as a beacon of knowledge for centuries. And beside him, Aristotle lowers his gaze from the skies and fixes it upon the earth. He classifies, analyzes, organizes. He gives us logic, ethics, and science. Thought begins to walk between the divine and the human. Beyond Greece, Democritus imagines invisible atoms. Parmenides speaks of the eternal, Heraclitus of constant change. Pythagoras listens in numbers to the secret music of the cosmos. In Rome, Seneca and Marcus Aurelius remind us that power and glory are fleeting, that the only eternal things are virtue and the serenity of the soul. 2. The sages of the East. At the same time, in distant lands, different yet equally profound voices arise. In China, Confucius teaches social harmony and the strength of virtue. Lao-Tzu, in contrast, invites us to flow like water, to follow the Tao, the invisible path that sustains the universe. In India, Buddha speaks of suffering and how to free ourselves from it. Later, Nagarjuna and Dogen will open doors to emptiness and meditation as sources of wisdom. In these places, the goal is not to conquer the world, but to conquer the heart. Here, thought does not separate reason and life. It is the same journey toward inner peace. 3. Faith and reason. As the centuries pass, religions intertwine with philosophy. In the desert, St. Augustine speaks of the love of God as the path to the soul. Thomas Aquinas seeks to reconcile faith and reason. Aristotle and Christianity, logic and mystery. In the Islamic world, Al-Ghazali, Avicenna, and Averroes illuminate the Middle Ages, engaging in dialogue with both faith and science, opening roads that Europe will later inherit. At the same time, in Jewish mysticism, Maimonides strives to unite revelation with reason. Every culture holds its treasure of wisdom, and together they weave the fabric of humanity. 4. The moderns, the rebels. With the Renaissance and modernity, everything changes. René Descartes proclaims, "I think, therefore I am." Doubt becomes a weapon. John Locke and David Hume explore experience and the senses. Immanuel Kant builds a mountain of thought where freedom and duty find their place. Hegel constructs a system where history advances through conflict, and Marx, alongside Engels, takes it to denounce injustice and call for a revolution of the people. Kierkegaard, in Solitude, opens the path to existentialism, while Nietzsche, with his hammer, smashes idols and hurls humanity into the challenge of the Übermensch. Meanwhile, the voices of science and curiosity rise. Darwin explains evolution, Freud explores dreams and the unconscious, Einstein and Hawking expand the cosmos in formulas that read like mathematical poetry. Carl Sagan from television reminds us that we are stardust. 5. Existentialism and the 20th century. History advances and the 20th century brings deeper, more urgent questions. Jean-Paul Sartre proclaims that we are condemned to be free, that every act is a choice and a responsibility. At his side, Simone de Beauvoir breaks centuries of silence. She declares that woman is not born, but made, and her voice echoes through every struggle for equality. Albert Camus looks into the absurdity of life and responds with rebellion. Even if the universe has no meaning, we build it with dignity. Hannah Arendt denounces totalitarianism and reminds us that evil can be banal, ordinary, dangerous, precisely because of its normality. Michel Foucault reveals how power hides everywhere, in prisons, in schools, in hospitals. And Gilles Deleuze opens doors to a thought in motion, rhizomatic, without a center, like a map forever unfinished. 6. Critical voices and postmodernity. Roland Barthes destroys the author to liberate the reader. Derrida speaks of deconstruction, of texts that conceal countless meanings. Lyotard announces the fall of grand narratives. There is no longer a single truth, but fragments living side by side. Byung-Chul Han warns us of the society of fatigue, where productivity becomes an invisible prison. Judith Butler questions gender and identities, while Slavoj Žižek blends cinema, politics, and psychoanalysis to provoke and dismantle certainties. In this era, thought does not seek definitive answers, but rather to open more and more questions, to tear down walls, and to reveal that truth is always a contested ground. 7. Economy, politics, and the future. Not all are abstract questions. Some turn their eyes to money, to power, to inequality. Keynes dreams of governments protecting their people in times of crisis. Milton Friedman and Friedrich Hayek defend the free market as the engine of prosperity. Thomas Piketty studies modern inequalities, while Amartya Sen measures development not by wealth, but by human freedoms. Joseph Stiglitz denounces the excesses of the financial system, and Cornel West reminds us that justice without love is impossible. From different trenches, each offers visions of how to organize the world, how to ensure the economy serves people, and not the other way around. 8. The sages of today. In recent times, new voices rise. Yuval Noah Harari narrates the history of humanity as a journey of shared myths and uncertain futures. Eckhart Tolle speaks of presence and the now as the only path to liberation. Martha Nussbaum defends compassion and justice as the pillars of a full life. Rumi, from centuries past, still inspires with his mystical poetry, reminding us that love is a transforming force. And thinkers like Tolle or Harari, each in their own way, show us that philosophy is not an echo of the past, but a living fire burning in our present. Kashosanam 9. The Epic Closing. This channel is a journey. It is not a museum of dead names, nor a simple list of theories. It is a living map of humanity searching for meaning, fighting for freedom, confronting the absurd, loving, dreaming, creating new worlds with every idea. Here they all are, from Socrates to Nietzsche, from Confucius to Harari, from Epicurus to Simone de Beauvoir. Each is a beacon, a spark that lights up the darkness, and together they form a constellation that shines across the centuries. 10. The mystics and seekers of the spirit. Beyond cities and parliaments, there were those who searched for the divine and the infinite. Buda, seated beneath a tree, spoke of suffering and the path to liberation. Confucius taught harmony among men as the foundation of a just society. Lao-Tzu pointed to the flow of the Tao, the mystery that guides all things. Saint Augustine looked within himself and found God in the depths of the soul. Thomas Aquinas united faith and reason in a single edifice of thought. And in the Arab lands, Al-Ghazali debated with philosophers, Maimonides sought truth between law and reason, Averroes defended freedom of thought, and Avicenna illuminated with his science and medicine. In them, philosophy was also prayer, a search for the eternal, a dialogue with the invisible. 11. The pioneers of science and nature. Others, however, turned their eyes to the stars and the earth. Anaximander and Heraclitus pondered the origin of all things: water, fire, constant change. Democritus spoke of atoms long before science confirmed them. Pythagoras saw in numbers the very language of the universe. Aristotle, already mentioned, ordered nature as if it were a great open book. Centuries later, Darwin revealed that life is evolution, struggle, and adaptation. Richard Feynman spread the joy of discovery with every experiment. Stephen Hawking from his chair explored the limits of time and black holes. And Carl Sagan, with his voice, reminded all humanity that we are stardust, walking upon a fragile blue dot in the immensity. Thus, from the sages of Greece to today's thinkers, from the temples of the East to modern laboratories, philosophy and science have shared the same impulse: to understand who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. This channel is that journey. Here, philosophers laugh, argue, dream, and you become part of that millenary conversation. Because in the end, philosophy does not dwell only in books. It lives in life itself, in every question we dare to ask. Welcome to this eternal journey. We have traveled through millennia of thought, crossing temples, libraries, classrooms, and laboratories. We have witnessed men and women who, with their words, changed empires, defied dogmas, and opened paths for humanity to move forward. But all this journey would mean nothing if it remained here, frozen on the screen. The true purpose of this channel is not only to tell stories, it is to plant questions, awaken restlessness, and ignite the spark of reflection in everyone who joins us. To cultivate the mind is also to cultivate the spirit. When we listen to Nietzsche, we learn to face the abyss. With Simone de Beauvoir, we discover the freedom and responsibility of being. With Buda, we understand suffering and compassion. With Carl Sagan, we remember that we are stardust. Each video, each teaching is not a relic of the past. It is a tool to live better, to understand ourselves, to grow. And those who join this community know it well. Here we don't just watch, here we take part in an inner journey. But this journey cannot stand alone. Philosophy has always been conversation. Socrates asked in the public square, the Enlightenment thinkers gathered in cafes, the existentialists debated in Parisian bars. Today, that square, that cafe, that bar is here in this channel. When you give a like, when you share a video, when you leave a comment, you are not making a small gesture. You are feeding a modern agora, a space where philosophy lives again. Thanks to you, this project can grow, reach more people, and give life to more stories, more teachings, more journeys. Imagine it. Every subscription is like lighting a torch in the darkness. Every share is like carrying that light to another corner of the world. And every comment is like a spark that ignites another conversation. This is how this channel becomes something greater than a project. It becomes a movement of thought, a community that keeps alive the legacy of those who came before us. And the most important thing is what happens within you. Because every time you press play, you don't just see a philosopher in animation. You see a mirror of your own life. You question, you doubt, you get inspired, and without realizing it, you transform. That is what makes this journey powerful. It doesn't remain on the screen. It walks with you in your decisions, in your relationships, in your way of seeing the world. And that is the true power of philosophy, to make us more free, more wise, more human. So this is our call. Join us, share, comment, help these ideas cross borders. Every click opens a door for another seeker of answers. Every gesture sustains this project. And together, step by step, with every video, with every story, we are building an invisible temple made of wisdom, memory, and hope. A temple that anyone can enter, no matter where they come from. All of humanity is heir to these thoughts. And now you too are a guardian of this legacy. Do not forget, your support, your participation, your voice are part of this story. For the great changes of humanity never began with crowds. They began with a few who dared to think differently. Just like you, just like us. The journey continues. And in this channel, you will always have a place in the voyage.